Today, we are finishing up our mental health with Jason Shaw. Jason's son tragically committed suicide of May last year,
Mm-hmm.
and he's here with us. He's going to talk to us about the warning signs, what parents need to know. We're going to talk a little bit about grief. Really, we're just, Jason is here so that we can fully learn how to help our children.
Mm-hmm.
Tristen's Hope Foundation. We have, I don't know if you can see that, Tristen's Hope Foundation. We have resources and contact info, and there's a website, right?
Yes.
What's the website?
Tristan'sHopeFoundation.org.
Okay. So we have that. And before we start, we're going to just give the number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. It is 1-800-273-8255. Once again, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. So, Jason, first of all, thank you so much for, and I've said this to you, the strength you have in grief. I just really want to honor you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the strength that you have in grief so that we can stop this.
Yeah.
Tell me about Tristen.
He was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He loved to smile. He loved his friends. I'm learning a lot about
Mm-hmm.
Tristen still,
Mm-hmm.
through the friends from the high school. And he would make sure other kids were okay in the hallway. If they were having a bad day, he'd give them a Jolly Rancher or something. So
Yeah.
I carry around a bag of Jolly Ranchers with me now,
I love that.
but he loved life, He loved having fun, climbing trees, playing video games. He did it all, It was very rare that you didn't see Tristen without a smile. Now, all that changed in the last year, we noticed he started struggling a little bit, and, we were talking with him and everything and just thought it was normal teenage things. And that's why I think it's so important for people to learn the warning signs that we'll talk about here after a while. But he was just, I would call it your normal child that loved having fun and being around his friends, and his brother especially. They hung out a lot. So that's about all I can say. It's like he was a normal kid.
Yeah.
You would have never expected any of this.
I think that's probably very consistent with stories.
Yeah.
Very, very. So, just being a normal kid and the way it began, how did it begin? So there were some warning signs, but you weren't, because being a parent, we're not educated.
Right.
We're not educated to know the difference between hormones, teenage hormones, and depression and thoughts of suicide. We're just not. So kind of tell us, how did it begin? You said that a friend actually mentioned to check on him, and you did.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife had got a phone call like, hey, you should check on Tristen. He was talking about suicide the other day or whatever. And so my wife did. We kind of went in there and just sat down and talked with him. And of course he denied it. I was like, oh no, she's just making stuff up,
Mm-hmm.
But, before that, he was getting quiet. He'd like to spend a lot of time in his room. I just figured it was.
And prior to that, he didn't.
No, he was always trying to do something. But as the years progressed, with kids, they like to play video games. And so he ended up in his room a lot. And it really progressed. That's all he wanted to do. He didn't want to go on trips with us or anything. And that's why we were just like, well, it's just normal teenage things. He's going through a phase. He just wants to be with his friends. So we didn't really put too much thought into it. When that person had called and let us know, like I said, we had talked to him, and he would always deny it, said, no, I would never do anything like that, guys. I would tell you if I ever felt like that. It kind of progressed a little bit, and he was starting to skip school and stuff. So we got him into counseling and stuff. And, we don't really know what happened in the counseling. He could have went in there and not said a word. We don't really know because that's confidential, but.
So it's confidential even after this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We just really never have asked, but it's just kind of like leave that alone for a little while. But It's really strange. Like he went to counseling for a while, and then his counselor, they all got COVID. So we had to find a different counselor, and luckily, we found like an intern guy that was willing to do it. And it seemed like Tristen connected with him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he started cheering up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of weird to
Mm-hmm.
say. So we thought, okay, well, maybe he is doing a little better, and then he brought it up to mom that, hey, I don't feel like I need to go to counseling anymore. So she was like, well, you're going to have to call him and tell him, and so he did. And we never really thought about it. There were, gosh, I want to say 4 or 5 days in a row where we kept getting phone calls from the school, like, your son's missing a class or whatever. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
ask him, and he's like, oh, I was just tardy for a class, because they'll call us if they are tardy at
Okay.
all.
Mm-hmm.
And so never really put too much thought into it until my wife looked, and she's like, Jason, he's been missing all day.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, he's just gone to school and then left and went to a friend's house or
Mm-hmm.
something. But I really can't remember how it all figured it out, but they found him in the bathroom upstairs at the high school, and he would go in there and hide in the bathroom all day long.
Really?
So, I talked to him, and it's like, hey, bub, are you okay? Oh, dad, I'm fine. I don't like the first class, So, and it was too late in the year,
Mm-hmm.
because it was heading towards the end of the year at that point to change class or whatever.
But he was a friendly person. He had
Oh, yeah.
friends. He
Yeah.
was social.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a bully situation.
No, I've always wondered that, and
Mm-hmm.
I've asked countless people, hey, just let me know, talk to me, tell me what he was like. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was ever really bullied. I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
was a big kid,
Yeah.
know. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything, but as far as I know, all of his really close friends say, no, he was never really bullied. Now, during that last week,
Mm-hmm.
he left all contact with his friends, and we didn't know that until after the fact.
Okay.
Nobody really called us and said, hey, is he okay? Because he
Mm-hmm.
hasn't contacted us. And it's very rare, because I mean, they were on their computer every night
Mm-hmm.
playing games, talking with each other. So yeah, it was just weird. It just kind of progressed like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really, like, at home, he seemed like he was fine,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, maybe he does just not like that class and he just wants to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then that weekend came, and he had rode his bike on Saturday
Mm-hmm.
on Sunday, I'm sorry. And when he came back, it's kind of dusk, so the sun was going down, and he's like, Mom, an owl flew down in front of me, just swooped down in front of me. And he was like, that was exhilarating.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not my Tristen. I've
Mm-hmm.
never heard him talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like the weight of the world was lifted off of him. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, yeah, hey,
Mm-hmm.
man, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to get somewhere. And that next morning is when he was gone. So it's just kind of weird the way it progressed, But like I said, we didn't know the signs.
Yeah. And so the signs, which he was throwing some things away.
Yeah.
Right?
Throwing away possessions that, it's possessions they like, or stuff
Mm-hmm.
from their friends, or stuff that he's had forever,
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, from what I've studied into it, that's one of the major warning signs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're thinking, well, he's just moving on from some things and just trying to clean out his house.
Yeah.
And man, I wish I would have known.
I know.
You know what I mean?
And that's one of the reasons we're here, is to educate parents. Because when you're a teenager, I mean, I remember being a teenager. You remember being a teenager. There's so much that you go through with puberty and hormones and emotions. And there's so much that can be known as, like what you just said, well, maybe he's just out of that phase. Maybe he just needs some time to decompress, and that's why he's quiet this week. There's so many things that you can look at and say, oh, it's okay, it's just the phase, and that's why we need to be educated.
Yeah,
And
very much so.
so help us, educate us on what we as parents, obviously knowing these warning signs. And these warning signs, do you mind if I
No, go ahead. Go
say
ahead.
them? Okay, we've kind of talked about these, but I want to say them again because it's really important. I've talked about this in another episode, but it's so important. Talking about wanting to die or to kill themselves. I have mentioned this before. It is not funny to joke about it because
No.
I guess it is now, I've mentioned this in another episode. People are saying it's a trend now that when something happens to talk about killing yourself, it's not funny.
Yeah, it's not.
That should not be a trend. Please talk to your child about why
Mm.
it is so important not to say that.
And here's the thing, they need to check their Facebook and their, what they're Googling,
Mm-hmm.
because I know of a lot of kids that said, hey, we've checked it out. They'll go and check it out, what they can do or some of the ways they can kill themselves.
Really?
So, and most of the time the parent isn't even going to know that because they're doing it over here at
Sure,
nighttime. You
on
know
their
what I
own
mean?
phone
Yeah.
that we don't check.
Yeah.
Okay, so checking, so check your child's, even if there's no signs at all, maybe just check your child's
Yeah.
phone,
Yeah.
just in case. The Google and Facebook. Looking for a way to kill themselves, like searching online or buying a gun. Okay, so
Right.
we just talked about
Mm-hmm.
that. Talking about feeling hopeless or having no reason to live. Talking about feeling trapped or in unbearable pain. Talking about being a burden to others. Increasing the use of alcohol or drugs. Please do not assume that that one is just for adults. Acting anxious or agitated, behaving recklessly. Sleeping too little or too much. Withdrawing or isolating themselves. Throwing away personal belongings. Extreme mood swings. And what sorry, I thought that next one was coming up. I was like,
Okay.
and no, there's not another one.
There is another
It's
one.
the suicide. I thought that was
Yeah.
another one. Okay, anyway. So talk to me as a parent. Okay, obviously the warning signs.
Mm-hmm.
How can parents, and you kind of know this because you started a group.
Mm-hmm.
You started a group where you guys meet for coffee on Sundays for 2 hours, and you're actually talking with teens.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting in the mind, which I love this because you're firsthand getting
Yeah.
what we need to know that they won't tell us.
Yeah.
So why are teens struggling to even tell their parents?
I was really surprised by this, but you've heard it, if you go on AFSP and all those places, they'll say it, but to hear in real life from actual teens, it's like, oh, okay. So like they are really like, they don't want to bother their parents for one. They don't want their parents to worry, which is crazy to me,
It's ironic because something
Right.
happens. Well, now
Yeah.
we're definitely.
And I think they're embarrassed too, and the same goes with their friends. They don't want their friends to look at them weird. Like if they went up to him and said, hey man, I'm really struggling and I've thought about suicide and I need some help. I mean, that sounds really easy, but I guess the pressure of, not wanting to lose a friend or have your parent maybe lash out at you like, oh, you're just seeking attention. I've heard that parents do that before. So yeah, there's a lot of variables in there that they're afraid to reach out, but we as parents need to reassure our kids that it's okay. Like I love my kids, and I would do anything for them. But in another sense of it, I can't do anything unless they tell me.
Exactly.
Like I could sit there and guess all day and I could see the warning signs and I could ask them if they just continue to say no, 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 and show me that, well, they're okay, then I'm not going to really know, and that's a scary part.
Yes.
But we as parents need to really be keen on these warning signs and what we can do and be aware. I'm like, know their friends too, and get to know them and just, there's, I've been thinking a lot about this lately. And I think one of the things kids do this is because there are times where, and I remember going through this, like Tristen would come to me and maybe brought up something different, but maybe he really wanted to talk to me at that point. And I said, well, let's just deal with it later. I'll talk at you later. I'm busy or something like that. So I remember a lot of instances like that. Well, now I'm thinking, and I've read this somewhere and I can't remember where, but kids learn from us. And so that right there is a response that the kid is learning. Okay, so now I'm in pain and nobody's really wanting to hurt me or help me. So I'm just going to go in my room and keep it to myself. And then when the parents actually do go in there and say, hey, are you okay? that kid's going to be like, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm not worried about it. We can talk later or whatever. Well, they're doing what we did to them
And
at
have you
first.
ever, I just was thinking about this, they could have also, even if that wasn't the case, they were ready to talk about it
Yep.
then, and you just gave them time to say to themselves, I don't want to talk about it
Yep.
anymore. So really, you have to take that opportune
Yeah.
moment.
Oh,
And because how many times do we, even with our spouses,
all the
hey,
time.
hey, I want to talk about this, and then they're like, okay, well, give me a few minutes, and then they
Yep.
come to talk about it, and it's like, I'm over
Well,
it.
and
Yeah.
from experience, your emotions change within minutes.
Yep.
Because I think it's a natural response where you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to be okay. We'll just get through this little moment.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, it's not just the teenager or the person in trouble with suicide that needs to reach out. It's all of us need to make a change.
Sure.
And I know that's a really hard pill to swallow because a lot of parents are out there like, man, we spend all the time with our kids and everything, but have you really got intimate with them?
Yeah.
Have you sat in their room when they've wanted to talk to you and just listen? That's so important for us to just listen. That's another thing I hear from these kids. It's like, they don't want to go somewhere or talk to somebody that's going to just automatically tell them what they should do.
Yeah.
Because to them, that's showing that person is not really listening to what their needs are and what they're actually going through.
I had a conversation with my 12-year-old the other day, and I said, we talk a lot about mental health in my house, by the way. I'm a huge advocate for it.
That's awesome.
And we have a lot of conversations about it. And I am a safe space. I am a safe space for your thoughts. I know sometimes I yell, but I want to know, like, if it's an emergency, just be like, Mom, be quiet. I need to tell you, like, just be real with me, cause I like, sometimes I do get impatient sometimes, you know what I mean? And I don't know if it's, where I'm a parent, I got 3 kids. Yep. And so I'm just like, guys, like, please come talk to me. But here's what I got tripped up this week. This week, the constant theme is listen. I'm a fixer. I want to fix everything. I have a podcast because I want to fix mental health. Like, I'm a fixer.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I went to my son the other day and I said, I try and fix things for you a lot, don't I? I talk at you a lot, don't I? I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And please let me have another chance to show you I can listen. Have that conversation with your kids. Just be vulnerable with your kids. Your kids, I think there's more trust built between you and your child when you let them know you're flawed. And you don't approach them like you're perfect and you have no stink. You know?
And I think they feel that way about their friends too. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, but kids make rash decisions on spot, boom. I mean, that's just nature. And so we need to be willing to be there.
We do.
And we need to listen.
Have open, raw conversations.
Yep.
If you're nervous, to approach them about it. Because I think sometimes we think, well, if it's not a subject that's been brought up before and I bring this up, what if it puts the idea in their head? Or what if they don't want to talk? Risk it.
Yeah.
Risk the conversation. Risk what these what ifs in your head. Take the risk and have the conversation.
Here's the thing. There's kids in elementary school and younger that's already had these thoughts in their heads. It's proven.
And what was the age?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about this. It was like 10 years and younger, right?
10 years and younger.
And
yes.
what happened? It was something in a gym. And just tell me about that.
I've watched a few of videos of this guy that talks worldwide, and he goes to elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. But what really got me was the elementary schools, where he's going in there and he flat out asks these kids, I want you to be honest with me. And he'll ask, do you have friends that have cut? Or have you cut? Do you know anybody that's talked about suicide or has contemplated about suicide? And it'll be over half of the body that's in there will raise their hands. And this is elementary school.
10 years and younger.
And it just breaks your heart. So, there is a lot out there that are struggling. And I guarantee you, if we did that in Republic or Nixa or Willard or anywhere around here, it's going to be the same way.
And that's the people who weren't afraid to raise their hands.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the people who, so how many more if they didn't feel embarrassed to raise their hand?
I'd be afraid to know.
Me too. And we were actually talking about that before the podcast started, you and I. There's numbers out there online that give you stats. There's no way they're accurate.
No, there's no way. Well, and like I said, they only report what's been reported. So that's, and there's
No way they're accurate.
it's scary.
We need to be there for our children, but we also need to be there because you had mentioned this. Uh, we need to be there for ourselves
Yep.
and give ourselves grace.
Yes.
What does grief look like? And
Um, well, for me in this realm, it's been really hard.
mhm,
The first several months was just a blur.
mhm,
Um, yeah, you really can't explain it, but here recently,
mhm,
man, I just have moments where I just break down and cry. And
mhm,
I don't know if it's, I obviously I think about my son all the time, but
mhm,
there's other times where it just hits you
mhm.
and it's hard to explain unless you've been there, but it's just like a wave of very heavy emotions and thoughts and views of him that just come over me. And man, you just can do nothing but cry.
Yeah.
And there's times where you're like, I can't take this anymore,
Mm,
So, and that's part of you need to be healthy for yourself.
mhm,
Like when you recognize that, I need to get help too. You know what I
mhm.
mean? And I need to do things that promote good mental health for myself. Um, so grief is just, we're all going to do it when we lose
Mhm,
somebody or something that we really loved, but
mhm,
it's just really deep. And I'm learning that this isn't going to go away,
mhm,
sadly.
mhm,
Um, I would love to wake up and see him there.
mhm.
I would love for all these feelings to go away and just be good again.
Mhm.
But I know just from people that I know that's had their sons missing for like 10 years, they
Mhm.
still go through the exact, and it's
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
Um, so in one way that kind of pushes me,
Mhm.
I might be wired a little different than everybody's. I don't
Mhm.
know, but it's to me, it's like, this is what I have to do for my son,
Mhm.
and God is, I think he's heard that and he's leading me
Mhm.
and I feel it.
Yeah.
So I have to march that way,
Mhm.
and I
And you
know,
you said that sometimes you feel like Tristan and the Lord are
oh yeah,
pushing you.
most definitely.
Yeah. Like
Like,
they're
yeah, I mean, some of the things that's happened, it's like, wow,
yeah.
okay, that was truly, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Because in an earthly world like we're in, we screw things up
Yeah.
all the time. And it's just been amazing. I thank them for that.
Yeah.
But, and I'm an impatient person. I like to go, go, go.
Sure.
And because I know the mission that's there, it's
Mhm.
huge.
Mhm.
There's a lot of kids struggling. I know a lot of them
Mhm.
and I talk with them, and it breaks my heart
Mhm.
because you want these kids to just be kids and
Mm.
love life, but they're struggling,
Yes.
and that makes the parents struggle.
Yeah.
So we have a really wide range of craziness going on
Mhm.
right now within the families, within the communities, and it's going to take all of us to come together
Mhm.
and make changes, make sure we're doing the right things to make
Mhm.
sure everybody's healthy, and
Sure.
making sure yourself is healthy.
Yes. And that's why I said in the very beginning, strength in grief.
Hmm.
Because there is a strength in
Yeah.
doing this, but it's in grief. The grief doesn't go away. But for the people who are siblings or parents, close circle of somebody who has committed suicide, I really like what you say about guilt. You have
Hmm.
to release yourself.
Yeah. There's a ton of guilt,
Hmm.
and that comes and goes, but and I'll just be honest with you, that's Satan
I
talking to
agree.
you, getting
I
in your
agree.
head.
I agree.
And man, I recognize it now. You know what I mean? It's been a journey, but I
Mm-hmm.
recognize it. And as soon as it comes up, I'm like, nope, I got to shut that off.
Hmm.
And my wife has really helped me because I will go into a deep hole at
Yeah.
times. And she's like, we have to remember the 17 years of goodness
Hmm.
and the time we got to spend with him. And so we weren't really sure with the year anniversary coming up, how it was going to be.
Hmm.
And, you always think the worst, but it was okay,
Hmm.
because we spent the day, we walked to the site and we just kind of prayed and just thinking about all the good things,
Hmm.
looking through thousands of pictures that we have. And he always had a smile on his face.
Hmm.
And what really got to me was there's a lot of pictures like he was always beside me, you know, and so I can't help but think that he's still there, you know, and because I feel him sometimes, you know, so in kind of in my way, I owe it to him, you know, because I'm like, all right, bub, let's go, you know, because talking to some of the students, how he's helped people in the hallways and stuff, I'm like, okay, that's what we're supposed to do, you know, and God always says, love everybody, you know, and that's so, man, that's just our mission, you know, and through that, I think it's going to heal everything, you know, but we've got to get everybody on board. And the warning signs for the parents is so important.
And the warning signs, and also talking to your children, being in relationship with your children, doing life with your children, having conversations that are hard. That's what parents do. We have hard conversations. Parenting isn't easy for a reason.
Yep.
And so I just want to, before we end, if there is something that you can say twofold. Somebody is thinking about committing suicide today. What would you say to them?
Don't.
Yeah. But what is something tangible that they can do today? Is it go to a crisis center, find a, you know?
There's a lot of, like, you can go to any emergency room around and they'll take care of you there.
And don't be ashamed to do it.
Yeah, do not be afraid.
I would rather see you walk nervously into an emergency room to get help than to not be here anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I think, and I've thought about this a lot. I think sometimes they don't realize that that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're just at that moment, because I've been there, at that moment, they're trying to just end that pain and get rid of those feelings in their head. But I would be the first to tell them not to. You know what? I'll give you my phone number. You can call me. You know what? Because it's so important. And I've learned a lot of these kids just want to be loved and want somebody to listen to them, you know.
And the embarrassment and shame, I'm going to say this again.
Yeah.
The embarrassment and shame that you feel in the thought of telling somebody is so much less than making a permanent decision.
Well, and those are all lies.
All lies.
Yep.
All lies to keep you from living.
Yeah.
And do it. Go to somebody, take the risk, say, you know what? I don't care if this is shameful or embarrassing. This is how I'm feeling and I need help so that I can see tomorrow.
Yeah. There's a ton of us out there that'll help, that'll listen.
So many people, so many people, and just so many people. And I'm just going to say this. If you are in the Republic, Missouri, Nixa, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri area, and you have a building that you want to provide to Jason, we need a building. Jason needs a building. He's going to make a crisis center.
Yeah, it's so important.
I'm not saying he's going to make a crisis center. I'm just a call to arms. If you have a building and you want to donate, I know it can happen.
I appreciate that.
So anyway, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing so that we can learn and be educated and taking, it does not go unknown to me how from one parent to another, it is not unknown to me how vulnerable you just had to be to do this. And I am so appreciative of you doing it in order for other people to see tomorrow.
It's what I have to do.
Yeah.
You know, people need to hear the stories.
Yes.
People need to know that there's help out there and what they can do.
Yes.
So.
And Jason, if you, like he said, if you just need a contact, he's starting a group on Sundays. And also I will put all this information online. There's some health services that you name on here, Epic Life Ministries, Mental Health Services, NAMI of Southwest Missouri, Sugar Tree Counseling, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
On our website, TristansHopeFoundation.org, we have a huge page of resources, and it's continuing to grow.
Perfect. Perfect. So here's that one more time. Jason, thank you.
Thank you.
And I cannot, I'm very excited to see what the Lord does through this, helping people.
Yeah, we're going to change some things. We're going to move mountains. I always like to say that.
I see it, and the vision you have, I love it. So anyway, thank you, Jason.